Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for coming to watch. So, I've got guys an update on Hurricane Erin. So, Erin has rapidly intensified to a Category 5 hurricane, and since then has actually been downgraded now to a high-end Category 4 hurricane as she begins to go through a eyewall replacement cycle. But we have big changes in the forecast for as far as how strong Erin is going to get and where she's going to go. I've got all the details coming right up. Right? So, thank you for joining me here on this Saturday evening. We have a lot to talk about in this video. We're going to be going over all the latest details on Major Hurricane Erin, which again has undergone a huge phase of rapid intensification like we've seen not many times before. I mean, overnight last night it went from a weak Category 1 hurricane to literally a Category 5 hurricane just about 8 hours. So a huge pressure drop happened overnight. The pressure got down to about 915 millibars. Since then, has actually gone up to about 934 millibars as the eye here has closed up in Erin. But you can see on that the first scan in this frame, you can see Erin's eye was actually a little bit more visible there. So right here you can see Erin had a much more clear eye, but Erin became a very strong, ferocious Category 5 hurricane, and since then has weakened. So if you take a look at the current satellite, again, all of these tropical storm bands are now starting to lash the Leeward Islands as well as the Lesser Antilles. You can see Puerto Rico, the British Virgin Islands, all the way down to Anguilla and even down to Barbuda and Antigua. You're talking about potential significant impacts to continue throughout tonight. We're talking about water spouts, very rough waves, as well as very heavy downpours, and even some tropical storm force winds, because this is a very, very large hurricane now. You can see it very clearly on the satellite. So Erin will continue to lash the islands here with very significant impacts, and I believe the Virgin Islands did see their first severe thunderstorm warning ever. I believe earlier this morning or earlier this afternoon. So again, big time impacts are looking possible from Erin here as we get into the overnight hours and the morning hours of tomorrow. All right, so we move on to our forecast cone here. This is the latest cone from the National Hurricane Center on Erin. So you can see as of 8 p.m. today, this was Erin's tropical storm wind field, again growing in size there, as well as that hurricane wind field. But you can see that Erin is expected to continue to be a major hurricane, likely strengthening once again into a Category 5 hurricane sometime into tomorrow, if we do see that eyewall replacement cycle actually come to fruition there. But Erin will likely curve north over the next couple of days. As we get into Monday, you can see we do actually have now tropical storm watches up for portions of the far southern Bahamas. So Erin will be paralleling the Bahamas by the early work week this week. So if you are especially in the most southern islands here under that tropical storm watch, start making preparations there, because again, there is the chance that we will be seeing some heavy rain, tropical storm force winds, and very high waves, kind of similar to what we saw across Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles today. Alright, so you really want to make sure you're getting yourself prepared for what impacts are to come, but Erin is expected to stay a major hurricane all the way until Thursday, which is the last point here on our cone of uncertainty. But Bermuda has actually been taken out of the cone of uncertainty at this point, and it has been shifted a tad bit to the west, still way off the coast of the East Coast, but definitely a little bit farther to the west here. So by Wednesday and Thursday, the storm will be pretty much just a few hundred miles off the coast of the Carolinas, still as a major Category 3 hurricane, and again, it will make its way north of Bermuda, hopefully by Thursday afternoon. Alright, so I do want to go back here to this new graphic that we haven't really showed yet on this channel. This is the earliest reasonable arrival time for tropical storm force winds, and I would like to note that this is a very, very broad wind field that we're seeing forecasted from the National Hurricane Center. Now, does this mean that we will see tropical storm force winds? No. but there is a chance that the storm will grow in size so much and actually go a little bit closer to land, to the point where we will actually see tropical storm force winds and wind gusts sometime between Tuesday 8 p.m. and Wednesday 8 a.m. here across the Carolina coastline, as well as portions of the New England coastline here just after 8 p.m. on Wednesday. So overnight Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, we could be talking about some significant gusty winds across the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So does this mean that you need to prepare for a immediate landfall and that catastrophic impacts are going to come? No, this just means that some gusty winds are definitely going to be possible, as Erin will be making her way closer towards land as she kind of approaches from the southeast. Now, will she make it a direct impact? She still is not expected to, but definitely a little bit closer to the coastline than initially expected. And then finally, for the New England coastline, you will see similar impacts after 8 p.m. on Wednesday. So that's the latest from the National Hurricane Center on the time and the arrival for the worst of the winds. But Bermuda is also in the wind path here, if you will. So right around Wednesday 8 a.m. is when we're expecting the worst of the winds to reach Bermuda. Again, that is going to be early Wednesday morning. All right, so we're going to be moving on here to the GFS model. We're going to be watching the latest GFS for kind of where Erin is going to be going over the next couple of days. So you can see, once again, Erin down here at 952 millibars. Don't worry about the strength of Erin on the GFS, just because all of the models were thrown off completely just from the fact that Erin went strengthened so quickly. None of the models predicted that, and obviously Erin strengthened to a Category 5, which was not expected at all, but also became a major hurricane 3 days ahead of schedule. So, or I guess not 3 days, but, very, very ahead of schedule. So that's going to throw off the models here strength-wise, and the GFS is going to underdo it. But you can see as we get into, this is Monday afternoon around 2 p.m., this is where Erin will be closest to the Bahamas. Again, very, very close as a 951 millibar, likely Cat 3, Cat 4 hurricane. Still bring some of those outer bands potentially into the southernmost islands there. That's where we kind of have that tropical storm watch. Will those get upgraded to tropical storm warnings? I definitely think it's possible, especially with perhaps another slight westward shift. But you can see the GFS continues again, deepening the system a lot more, so it's still strengthening. It's still likely a strong Category 3, Category 4 hurricane as we get into the middle of the work week. Again, this is getting into Wednesday morning here. The storm is just off the coast of the Carolinas, even bringing some rainfall into the Carolina coastline. So this is going to be when you're going to start to see some of those deteriorating conditions across the East Coast. So I really do think that, if the storm does make a little bit farther of a western track, I do think that we could definitely see some stronger wind gusts, but we're talking 30 to 40 and maybe even 50 mile an hour wind gusts across the East Coast. So we'll have to talk about that in the next couple update portions of this update. But you can see that Erin will continue to curve off to the east. That we're getting into Thursday now, and it does not quite bring impacts to the New England coastline as far as precipitation goes, but it definitely gets very, very close there. But definitely could definitely could end up with some rainfall and some rain showers here across the Carolina coastline as we get into your your Wednesday evening and Thursday morning. So I will actually take a look at Atlantic Canada here. I believe we have to look at North America for this. But if you look, you could see that Erin will continue to move north past then, and past that, and it will actually miss Nova Scotia here just to the east as a 950 millibar, likely ex-tropical cyclone, but it does bring some significant impacts to the coastline of Newfoundland. So if you are in Atlantic Canada, especially towards the southeast, make sure that you're staying prepared and watching the system, because again, it's looking like with that western track, we could definitely be talking about some significant impacts there. So do not let your guard down if in Nova Scotia or Newfoundland. But we take a look at the European model now, and we do see a similar story, but even a farther west track with the Euro. Again, we're getting now into Thursday. really Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Again, the storm is just off the coast of the Carolinas, much closer to the GFS. I mean, this is a pretty scary look. You have a 949 millibar Cat 3, Cat 4 hurricane. This is a absolute beast just off the coast of the Carolinas, to the point where you are starting to see some of those outer bands reaching the Carolina coastline there. So if that does actually happen, where we see that much farther west track, we can't rule out some more direct impacts to the East Coast, and that goes the same for the Bahamas. You can see even, this whole outer band here showing up on the Euro, absolutely lashing the southern half of the islands, not only the ones that are currently under tropical storm warnings, but a pretty widespread area. So again, this is going to be definitely an issue that we have to talk about, because that is a very, very strong hurricane that continues to wobble south of the cone. And again, if we do see that westward track actually, happen there, then we could definitely be talking about some bigger problems, bigger waves, and definitely some more precipitation. But the Euro also does make a very sharp curve towards out to sea towards the east there, so it does not bring any precipitation into the New England coastline, but it does obviously go up into the into portions of Atlantic Canada there. But the Euro is much more aggressive on that westward shift, when the GFS is being a little bit less aggressive, but definitely showing it as well. So another thing to note is that we look at the GFS ensemble. This is going to give us an idea of, hey, is the operational showing this, but also is the ensemble showing it. So this makes up around 58 or 51 members. So this is going to give us an idea of, if this is just a small signal or if this is actually like a whole shift. So if you take a look, you can see once again most of the members taking this pretty far off the coast of the Carolinas. But if you note, Bermuda is all the way out here. Look how much farther west of Bermuda these tracks are, rather than, we look at a couple days ago. So still most of the members taking this pretty far off the East Coast, but this would bring higher waves and even some gustier winds to the southeast and mid-Atlantic coastline. So if we do see, again, even the possibility of a few of these members being correct here, and we do see Erin take that southern and more western track, then that could definitely result in some much more closer impacts towards the East Coast as well as the Bahamas here. So I definitely would not rule it out that we do see some more direct impacts, just because the latest GFS ensemble also does like a little bit of a westward shift as of the latest few runs here. But we move on to the European ensemble, and what does the Euro ensemble show? Well, also does show that westward shift, a little bit more aggressive. So you can see much stronger tracks on the Euro ensemble, but a lot of members bring this very close, dangerously close to the Carolina coastline. And I believe today's operational should be this little pink line here. You can kind of see it just in this total mess of spaghetti plots, but there is only one other member that takes it closer to land. I will say the consensus here definitely brings this, again, way more west of Bermuda than initially forecasted, but not quite reaching the East Coast there. So again, based off the European and the GFS ensemble, both the ensemble and the operationals agree on a westward shift. Now, is it going to bring a guarantee for direct impacts to the East Coast? No, but it definitely raises the concern that we could be talking about definitely some higher waves, even some gustier winds, and perhaps at the worst case scenario, even some precipitation from the very outer bands of major Hurricane Erin. So speaking of that westward shift, we move on here to the European model once again for our 500 millibar height anomalies, which gives us an idea of kind of what our staring currents are looking like. So as explained in previous updates, where you see the warmer colors, this is where we're talking about high pressure and ridging. This will kind of act as a shield or a defense force to keep away tropical systems and hurricanes. And then wherever you see these blues or these cooler colors, this is where you're seeing low pressure systems and troughs, which will tend to pick up hurricanes and bring them out to sea, especially in this case. So we take a look at the latest European model here, and we do see that Erin does come up here once again through the Bahamas, or not quite through the Bahamas, but just paralleling the Bahamas there. And the reason I do think why we see this closer track towards the United States is once again because of this area of high pressure and ridging that builds up from the south behind Erin, which kind of brings it closer towards land instead of going way out to sea just yet. And we do actually see this connection of the high pressure ridging that's slowing down Erin before it goes racing up the east coast. It connects with the high pressure to the south and eventually to the east of Erin, to the point where you have kind of a shield where Erin cannot go out to sea, or rather has to go closer towards land and potentially make a bigger impact there. So that's going to be a problem that we have to watch out for. Again, if this European run does actually support the actual pattern by this time. But you can see that this does steer Erin closer towards the United States, even showing these blue colors into the Carolina coastline. That's where we're going to be talking about possible precipitation. And then finally, it does break up this high pressure to the point where the trough does slow down in time to pick up Erin and kind of push it out to sea, sparing a direct landfall on the New England coastline. So if we did not have this trough nearby, which we definitely will, we would likely see Erin go a little bit closer towards land. But that is not going to happen in this case because we have this high pressure that's still blocking Erin from going right into the U.S., and we still have this ridge, this trough up here that's going to be picking up Erin and throwing it out to sea. So that's how our steering currents are working, and we can even look at the GFS for a comparison. And if the GFS shows the same thing, obviously need to be a little bit more worried, and it does actually show that high pressure building just to the southeast of the storm, but it does not make that full connection. And I do think that that's why the GFS is being a little bit less aggressive on that westward shift, but still shows it, because the reason why the storm goes a little bit closer towards land is because the GFS wants this high pressure to back off. So then you have all this neutral air, if you will, and space for Erin to kind of move into. Now, is that going to happen? No, but that's definitely going to allow for Erin to move maybe a little bit closer towards land there. So that's how things are going to be working as far as what's steering Erin closer to the east coast and eventually out to sea. But as a result, we look at the 6-hour max surface wind speeds, which I do want to take a look at just because of this westward shift. We could definitely be talking about some more direct impacts to land, like I said, but this is actually going to be our wind gusts from the European model here. And you can see we do have a very large wind gust swath. Again, this is the core and the outer core of Erin, just an absolutely monstrous system. I mean, I do also want to note how large this wind field is. You are seeing hurricane force winds anywhere in this gold shade. Look how large this circle is. Okay, so Erin is going to become a massive hurricane. Again, Erin's center is going to be right here, and you're going to have almost hurricane force winds reaching the outer coastline of the Carolinas. But again, if you take a look at the outer banks here, we are getting results of wind gusts potentially up to 50 miles per hour here on the latest European model. So again, this is with that western track. If we do see that occur, then we will be talking about tropical storm force wind gusts, potentially not even only the Carolina coastline, but up through the mid-Atlantic. We're talking about, this is the Maryland coastline here, 30 to 40, maybe even as high as 50 mile an hour wind gusts are going to be possible. But the very outer banks here could be looking at wind gusts of upwards of 50 miles per hour as we get into Wednesday night and Thursday morning. So again, this would be definitely our worst case scenario at this point. But we really do see a very large swath of potentially 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 mile an hour wind gusts up and down the east coast. So if we do see, once again, that much farther track towards the west, rather than Erin going completely out to sea, we could definitely have a corridor of some much stronger winds, which could result in some tree damage and some spotty power outages as we get from into our Wednesday evening and our Thursday morning. So again, this would definitely be one of the worst case scenarios. It is just one run of the European model, but I will say we have been seeing a pretty consistent shift farther west. So I'd say the windshield wiper effect is still ongoing, but if this does continue, we do actually see Erin take that western shift. We may need to talk about some more specific impacts here for the Carolina coastline, as well as our folks up and down the mid-Atlantic. Alright, so for the last part of the update, we will take a look at our wave height here from the European model. So this is going to be what our simulated significant wave heights are going to look like, and you can see again we clearly see that Erin takes that closer path to the west and even brings some huge waves all the way into the East Coast. Again, we take a look, for example, the Outer Banks of North Carolina getting 20-foot waves on this run of the European model, which I think is absurd. Again, this could be potentially slightly overdone, but if this happens with this western track, you are going to have huge problems on the East Coast. So rip currents and huge waves are going to be a big issue. Do not go in the water from Tuesday to Thursday of this week. We're going to be talking about huge waves and very rough seas all up and down the East Coast. You can see even into the New England coastline, again, with those outer bands circulating around the storm. It will be pushing tons of water towards the New England coastline, where we are going to be talking about, again, potentially up to 15-foot waves. But if you really, kind of hone in here on the southeast coastline, we can even zoom in here. I mean, you can see just an absolutely huge signal there for monstrous waves as we get into the middle of our work week. But even into, the mid-Atlantic and New England coastline, we're going to be talking about significant coastal impacts. So coastal flooding, areas of major inundation, and some dangerous rip currents are definitely looking possible across the East Coast as we get into the middle portion of this week. So that's all I got for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you're staying safe out there and that you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, because you do not want to miss out on any more updates on the tropics, but especially on Erin, because again, we could see that westward shift, which would bring Erin closer towards the U.S., just causing more problems for our folks on the East Coast. We also do have another tropical wave that will be posing a threat towards tropical development in the last few weeks here, or last few days of August. We will have to track that, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.